We have Madeline Klein on with us today. I'm so excited to have her on the show. We're going to get into the biz dev theme, and I will introduce you to the amazing grit and momentum coach, and we will talk about her personal story and how she helps you out.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
That's great.
Madeline Klein is a study in perpetual motion. Whatever Madeline Klein does, she does it with grit and momentum. You can find her painting, crafting, or baking with Raya and Harris, writing research assignments for a Ph.D. in the philosophy and educational leadership, writing books and grants for her clients, or fighting for one of her change the world causes. She brings passion, determination, and results to whatever she does. Madeline recreated her TV show, The Entrepreneurs, on Zoom. Her show aired every Monday night at 10 p.m. on local commercial cable for 10 years, and now she tapes episodes on Zoom. She loves her strategic thinking Saturday classes, which focus on a different favorite iconic author every Saturday. Her newest projects, What's Your Next Step? And Your Authentic Success Now, along with her own autobiography, Keep Her Up at Night. You can join a group coaching class or work individually with Madeline. Your life will never be the same. She guarantees it. Madeline, welcome to Biz Dev Live.
Who is that we're talking about? Whoa. Hi, Cameron. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. And, I think it's a testament. I've been up at 5 a.m. with Madeline for, the last 3 weeks, the last 4 weeks, something like that. And so I know you're up late at night, you're up early in the morning, you're getting it done. And I think it's incredible. Can you talk to us about, kind of what you're doing now with the writing and how passionate you are about sort of reinventing your career? And then we'll kind of get into the background and history of your story.
That's great. And thank you for asking that. I know it's a challenge for a lot of us. I'm 72 years young. I have no issue with it. I never felt better in my life. And what happens after so many years, Cameron, after 42 years of basically being in the same industry, loving every minute of it, you kind of need to, as the word goes, I don't like the word, but pivot. You need to keep reinventing yourself, keep shifting it up a little bit so that you're current, not only in your thinking. That's the key to staying eternally young, is to have beginner's mind, think like a 24-year-old, but also to continue to serve the current market. So what I'm doing now is identified a need in the marketplace for entrepreneurs. That's been my, one of my markets forever. For entrepreneurs to really stay focused and to promote themselves to their own stories and their own favorite quotes and just lessons they've learned. And so I've created a number of vehicles for doing that for folks. That's awesome. Basically, books, grants. There's a lot of grant money out there right now, and I can help people access that money. And also, stay current with your prospecting. Prospecting is the heartbeat of entrepreneurship. If you're not prospecting somewhere, even if you're on social media or whatever, traditional, just get out there every single day and talk to people,
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think we've been doing that. We're part of Master Networks and know some good people like Lynn Rowe, and we've been out there. You just won the coffee chat competition. I don't know how you put the numbers up. You did beat the pants off of me and several other folks with that competition. Talk to me about.
Let me tell you how I did that. Can I give away my? It wasn't really. Sure. I kept telling everybody to do it, but nobody was really paying attention. So first of all, I like connecting lots of people together. So I call them I call them meaningful conversations, meaningful connections. So even if you know somebody, you can get to know them on a deeper level, which is where the fun begins. So I've been putting together all month, and it's going to continue, is Joy in July, Awesome in August, Serious in September, etc. Meaningful connections, bringing 5 people together, 4 or 5 people together at once. So instead of 1 credit, I would get 4 or 5 credits, and that's how I did it.
So I have my issues with that. But no, it's a lot. I admire your ability.
She said you could have 4 people at a time.
I admire your ability to do it, because I think one of the challenges, like I heard you saying it, but one of the challenges for me was like, for me to focus on a bunch of different people at the same time would be, or at least I thought or think it would be difficult. I'm like, I have a hard
I'm
enough
not
time
focusing on them, Cameron. They're focusing on each other. I'm the facilitator. I invite them into my home.
I get that. I get that. But I just, it takes a level of energy which you have, which I don't think I have.
Okay, fair enough. You all have us right.
Anyways, I want to get back into your history. I know you've had a very interesting time. I've enjoyed hearing about some of the sales stuff that you've done in the past. So I don't know where you want to start in your story, but can you give us the history of Madeline Klein?
Sure. And a theme is obstacles, So history of Madeline Klein. Well, let me tell you about my dad for starters. Very quickly, my dad was a commission salesman. He sold hospital supplies. Originally, he was a Broadway dancer. He was a vaudeville performer. And he met my mother at a singles lodge, and he was 9 years older than her. And they were both very good looking, very fashionable people. And she said, well, if I'm going to marry you, you're going to get a real job. And to him, the real job was an outside salesperson. So he got one. And we lived in Lido Beach on the South Shore of Long Island. And I was a very little girl. And I used to hear him say, to sit out and just listen to him. He'd say, just go out and make a friend, and make sure you remember that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And then when I used to go with him to all of these wonderful, hospitals and friends that he developed from his clients, he'd spend an hour talking, schmoozing. And then in the last 5 minutes, he would say, so how many thousand dozen thermometers are we going to get this month? So I grew up with a paradigm of selling as going out and making a friend. And so I've been doing that since I'm 5 years old. So fast forward, I wasn't a great student. I was very non-motivated. I graduated high school barely, got into college barely, which is why it really surprises me now, or it shows me the power of self-esteem and motivation that I can maintain a 3.8 GPA in my Ph.D.
Which is amazing. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I think a lot of folks, including myself, are like, oh man, I want to go back to school, but it feels like it's too late. It feels like it's too much.
Let's do it. So fast forward, I know we need to move on with this story. So, I got married, I got married right out of college and 2 wonderful children. And we had a great love affair for a long time. And somehow we fell apart. We just fell apart. And that's one of the sadnesses of my life. And then I had to regroup. And, all along I was building my career as a business consultant. I was traveling the world. I was traveling the country with the American Management Association, doing keynotes and all kinds of great talks and things. And talk
to me a little bit about that. So what was the name of that organization?
Well, the name of the organization was American Management Association, which in its day in the 80s was a pretty significant organization. And, you didn't make much money from doing their public seminars, but if you did a good job, every one of 30 companies in that session wanted to hire you for very serious dollars. And so it was great. I did well. I was always a teacher. I started out as an English teacher, and I was always a good teacher. And so it was great.
What were you speaking on most of the time?
AMA did things on management training, career development for executive secretaries, sales training, communication skills, listening skills, active listening. And along the way, when I first got into education, I realized that kids could not learn academically if they didn't feel good about themselves. And it's a long story, so I won't tell it, but I got into the world of self-esteem, humanistic education, and I started writing about it, talking about it for parents, for teachers, and I published in it. And that is the core of what I do. I actually have a website, Self-Esteem Guide for Kids. And it's still a passion of mine. And I started studying with some of the greats in the world. I became certified as a holistic life coach in the field of education and leadership. And so, yeah, I really am passionate about making a difference in the lives of adults and children. And so, anyway, so I don't know where I'm up to in my life, but I'll tell you.
So you were speaking with the AMA, and you were talking about some of the stuff, and you went off into your passion, which I think we'll get back to, because I was also thinking that you might talk about some of your work around the prison or schools to prison pipeline.
Oh, schools to prison. Thank you for that opportunity.
Fight against. So I definitely want to talk about that, but let's continue on with your story, and we'll get back to it. So you were speaking with AMA, you were picking up speaking gigs.
And then I went into partnership with one of my mentors at AMA, Dr. Treadway Parker, who was the #2 guy, head of International Presidents Association. And when he retired, we went into partnership, and we did great work together, because he was a very left brain, content-oriented guy, and I was just out there with my right brain, and people loved the way we trained together. Unfortunately, he passed away prematurely, a year younger than I am now, and it was the same year my divorce was my marriage was ending, and it was a very traumatic time for me, and I basically just left everything and did nothing, and did nothing for almost a year. And I just was falling into it was probably a depression I didn't even know I was in. And then one day I said, if you don't get up and do something, you are going to wind up really, penniless, and you're going to wind up, in trouble mentally. Get up and do something. And I found this job. I Googled outside sales and cash. And I found this job with a company called Horizon Foods. You guys may know the trucks on the road, frozen food, right? Organic, non-organic, fish, steaks, whatever. And I got on a truck. I met these great guys, Mike Rosenberg and Sean Courtney. And that company would still be alive, in business today, if the world hadn't changed in terms of women being home and all of that kind of stuff. And for 6 years, I was a top salesperson. I knocked on 80 doors a day, showed 15 people the food, and a large part of my book is stories about me on the truck. I mean, authentic me on the truck. It was phenomenal.
So talk to me a little bit about 80 doors a day, because I think that's something that is so alien, especially to somebody that's probably a millennial, Generation Y, that sort of thing. It's a different kind of lifestyle. Door to door is not something that people are really familiar with, but that idea of making a phone call, which also people are getting out of the habit, just getting on the phone and talking with people. What was kind of behind your ability to go out and do that?
Well, I'll never forget, Cameron, the first day. It was May 7th. It was a Saturday morning. And, they gave me a truck. They gave me the food. I had gone out with the top sales guy, and he, they just knocked on doors all day long. Come on out and take a look. And I was driving around. And, the good thing about that company was you got paid in cash, and you got great bonuses. You could make a lot of money with that company. And so I was just driving around, and this lovely couple, eventually, I was in Greenwich. I was in Riverside, Connecticut, and I saw her planting annuals, which I did in my home in Scarsdale. I had a huge garden, And I'm like, oh, she's doing such a beautiful job. I jumped out of the truck. I said, God, those are gorgeous. So she said, oh, thank you. Oh, what's in that truck? I said, oh, I don't know. I just started with this. So her husband, I don't want to name names because I don't think, I don't want to do that. But her husband said, because I'd introduced myself, Madeline, why don't you go have a cup of tea with my wife and give me the list. Let me see what you got. Well, he wound up buying so much food that they gave him a free freezer. And Scott, the freezer manager, came barreling down the road 2 hours later with the freezer and with the food. And it was like, I made a lot of money that day. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is fun. I can do this. And I was taught by the owners of the company, you dress like you're playing, because they knew my lifestyle prior to all of this, dress like you're playing tennis in the summer, you're skiing in the winter, and just go out and stay healthy. And you know what? The fresh air, no matter what. And I learned how to put cat litter under the back of my truck under the wheels so I could get down the driveway if I got stuck. And I got really great Chaya Track boots. I never got sick. Well, not good, I don't get sick, but I never got a cold. I mean, it was such a healthy lifestyle. It was, work style. And it was really fun. It was a good run. It was 6 years. Yeah. Then I was back on the street because they went bankrupt. The timing was wrong. The big box stores, they closed the company. I was about to become a partner. That closed. Then I
think a lot of people are running into that kind of situational transition kind of stuff right now. So,
it's horrible. Yeah. Here I was, I had been having financial challenges, emotional challenges. I was like really at the top of my game. My 60th birthday, I had a party, and do you know those guys? Steak, seafood, they did all the cooking, they did everything. It was gourmet meals because we used to have a lot of different events, breakfast every morning. I mean, it was a great, great company. Then I was back on the street, so to speak, not literally, but, on the work.
Yeah.
Took a bunch of what we call in the Jewish tradition, Verstunkene. The Jewish viewers will know what Verstunkene is. Horrible jobs just to stay alive. Horrible big box retailers that treat their people awfully. Their break rooms like in a mold infested basement with a clothing. It was horrible. And then came Hurricane Sandy. I was happily living in my hometown, Long Beach. And then all of a sudden, 2 hours before it hit, my son said, Ma, you got to get into the city. We got to just get up and go. This is not the usual hurricane. Because I had gone through 3 hurricanes growing up 4 houses from the beach. I said, no big deal. I'm fine. No, this is different. I got you the last hotel room. All right. So that was that. And then
that's a good boy. He's taking care of his mom. That's really good.
Oh, my children, my son. Oh my God. My kids are my in-law kids, my grandkids. I am so blessed. And you hear about it all the time, Cameron, so you know. But yeah, I mean, I lost everything. I lost everything in my apartment. Thank God it was a rental, but I lost everything. And so there we go. Back on the street, back figuring it out, back. But eventually eventually my heart rose to the surface and I found my center. I work with Alan Cohen, Cohen, AlanCohen.com. He's been my mentor for 20 years. I've been Hawaii many times, certified as part of his foundation of life coaches. And I continue to study with him even now through Zoom. And he's been a real anchor getting me back to center all the time. And now I'm really being able to pay that forward because I'm really good. I'm in great shape. So I'm very grateful. So anything, for those of you who are challenged right now, where you feel like the walls are closing in on you, you just can't think, your adrenaline is going instead of your endorphins. Before the clarity comes the chaos. It has to. In the weather, it has to. After a storm, it's absolutely gorgeous, right? So just don't worry. The chaos, you will get through the chaos. And the beauty of clarity will appear. Just let it organically happen. It's already there. You just need to recognize it. That's all. Yeah, you're enough already.
I sort of relate to this in a lot of different ways. I've been through several different transitions, my own life with different things going on. But sometimes you need a good cry. You feel better after a good cry.
Absolutely.
and
And you gotta let
I,
yourself feel. You gotta, we're already everything we are is already there. We're already there. We're already enough. We don't need more. We just need to be. And part of being is mourning and being sad and being, just being whatever you're feeling. Let it come through, and you are just fine, and you will know you're fine once you allow that to happen.
yeah, sometimes we need that catharsis to get through it. Talk to me about, right now you made a decision to go back and go after your PhD, which is such an incredible thing. Why did you choose to do that?
So this is an interesting story. So I have some, before COVID, I had some wonderful, in-person clients, and one of them is a wonderful woman, Grace Richardson, who was the former chief marketing officer of 4 different major corporations, and she was responsible in the 60s for breaking the glass ceiling for more women than anyone else in the country. And now in her 80s, she contributes a lot of time to different organizations, including her alma mater. And I met her through one of our charitable endeavors, and she needed a personal assistant a couple of times a week. So I started going in 3 times a week, in the mornings in the city. We'd be with my grandchildren in the afternoon, and we got to be very close friends. And I have a lot of respect for Grace, a lot of respect. And one day she said to me, she kept saying to me like 3 days in a row, God, you're so smart. I don't know what I would do without you. And, and I never felt really that smart, shall we say, academically smart. So she kept saying it to me. So I went home that night and I woke up in the middle of the night and said, gee, if you were really that smart, what would you be doing? And boom, up popped PhD. It was 2 a.m. I ran to the computer. I went to see what universities gave a PhD program online. I chose the one, I applied, and by the next morning, I was hearing from the admissions people. I wrote an essay that was really, if I have to say so myself, it was pretty incredible because it was right from my heart, and it was 2 a.m. And yeah, and that was almost that was almost about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So,
and then I realized also related to that, I knew I wanted to make a difference I've always wanted to change the school system. So you teach emotional well-being first, and then you teach academics. Because if a kid doesn't feel good about themselves, how can they possibly learn how to learn? So I said, and if you have a PhD behind your name and you're an emerging scholar, I bet more people are going to pay attention to you, I said to myself. And in fact, that's the validation that I have been getting from all the professors and advisors along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that piece of paper makes a big difference. I've been doing college and career advising for the last 24 years with the nonprofit that I'm involved with. And I think, that's always my message to every student that's coming, out the door of the high school is, listen, you don't have to have a college education. You don't have to go on and get a graduate degree. You don't have to do any of that to be successful, but it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to have that certificate.
It's not so much the degree, it's the discipline, it's the behaviors. It's also what you learn along the way. It's who you become. It's like I'm a different person internally than I was every which way than I was when I started this. Education is a process that really helps.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I think that, there's when you're talking to especially young people, but even somebody that's older like myself, I'm 42 and I've did not graduate from college, and it's sort of an interesting thing when I go back and I'm advising students on what they should do after post high school. But I teach from that school of hard knocks and the mistakes that you don't want to make and that kind of thing. And I love the idea that listen, if you got this piece of paper on the wall and you can get it in a lot of different ways. Obviously, I would preach first and foremost, go through the process, go to some place where you're going to network with people. But, for example, with you going to the PhD online, which, maybe somebody would have, waved their finger at you 6 months ago and said, oh, you're getting it online, that's not the real way to do it. Well, guess what? It's the only way to do it, right?
Let me tell you something about that. 20 years ago, that might have been true, but I think it was Phoenix that changed the paradigm for that. And also, there's so much networking that goes on in the comments. I mean, I don't have time to respond to everybody. That's, I could spend hours and hours just connecting with on Zoom and just, on emailing, with folks in the university that are in my different segment groups. I'm in a business women's group. I'm in an educational group. It's really, the dynamic and frankly, oh my goodness, it gives you 24-hour access to the world of libraries, the world of coaching. Like if I'm up at 1 a.m. and I'm trying to finish a paper and I need help, I just go chat with one of the coaches. When can you do that and it's also time wise. I could never have to show up 4 days a week at a school, at a class and all of that. So,
well, I think it also plays to different segments. I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I think, certainly when we're talking about education, which I think we're about to jump into that, and especially with your cause and everything, but it definitely speaks to, whether it's somebody that you're talking about, that's, in my community of Valhalla or in the city or in some place where the economics are totally different, access. And then you have this whole thing of age appropriate, but also, which is to my bigger concern, not everybody's built the same way in terms of their ability to network and communicate and be extroverted enough to chase people down in the comments and be on camera and really interact and sort of, even though technically we're not looking each other eye to eye, we're seeing each other, we're interacting with each other. And I know grown folks, I'm on board calls. I was on 2 board calls this morning. And there's people that just aren't comfortable being on camera. So I worry and I'm concerned. I know we'll figure out a solution, but there, that sort of thing right now concerns me because while you certainly don't have that issue, I know there's a lot of folks that, they're not.
Colleges, I think, are doing a job in doing that. I think that the schools are doing, and, it's kind of like homeschooling. There's a whole group of people that for 40 years have been homeschooling, and some of our brightest people in the world were homeschooled. And so people thought the same thing. They're not going to socialize. They're not going to be able to do this. They're not going to learn. But, it's interesting what colleges are doing now in terms of the video. There's something called, I looked into it after I had to do something, Clitora, something like that. And now colleges are giving classes to students, teaching them how to feel comfortable on camera, how to learn how to, and I think today, frankly, we don't have time to get into this, but from a researcher's point of view, not a political point of view, not an opinion, research, it looks like this is going to be a lifestyle for a long time. And we need to sort of, learn new skills and, change our perspective a little bit. And if we want to fully embrace the world. So, for example, my daughter was really concerned because I'm relocating with my kids to Palm Beach. And my daughter was like, Mom, you're in the population. I'm really nervous. So when I said, Jackie, don't worry. I have my face shield. I have my 3, the top mask. I have my goggles and I'm good to go. Nobody's going to get to me here. So you just have to kind of armor yourself with new different kind of equipment. So to speak.
I love that thought that, there's classes for getting people comfortable with the online experience. Because I don't think, even with my own kids and their education, which I think is a good segue in what we're going to talk about next. But my kids and their education, they're jumping into the Google Meets and Google Classroom, but there isn't a lot of work around there wasn't something there, at least pre-existing. Maybe there'll be something coming up as we
It has to be. I've just been
to
looking
get
at it.
comfortable on camera and how to set your stuff up in a way. I think they worked on, and this is something I think my school district in particular does a pretty good job of, but I think this has been a little bit of a failure when the school says more about what you can do versus what you can't do, right? You're getting told, no, you can't do this all the time. Rather it's more efficient, more positive, more helpful. So let me know what I can do. You can set up your screen like this. You can do this. You can do that. Don't tell me what I can't do, because then immediately when you say what I can't do, that's immediately what I want to do. So tell me what I can do. Hey, we want you to do this, but I think they definitely got it to like, don't get online with your pajamas. Don't be in your bed. Don't be in, so it's like, well, okay, what can I do? Right. So it's sort of interesting as we move forward. So let's talk about your passion. Let's talk about this whole thing. And before I even jump into this, what is the Ph.D. you're pursuing on? What is the
Okay, so it's so it's the philosophy of educational leadership, because leadership is something that I'm very schooled in generally. So this educational leadership with a focus on social emotional learning, which is the clinical academic term for building self-esteem.
All right. So I think that's great. And then talk to us about your passion here, about the school to prison pipeline. Yeah.
So I was taking a course, one of the many courses I take in the diversity of learning, educating a diversity of learners. Very, very big theme in my particular concentration. And my daughter-in-law is the Ombudsman for Special Education for the city of New York. And she's a Teach for America teacher. She has a double master's from Columbia. And she's always been my go-to person when I need to do a topic. I'll say, okay, Lauren, what should I do for this one? So she gave me, so I needed to, in week 3 of an 8-week course, you need to pick your signature assignment for the 8-week 8, because it's like a 12-page paper as opposed to a 3 to 5-page paper. So I said, Lauren, I need to pick what do you suggest for this? She said, well, I think, discipline in the schools is a big, big controversial topic. She says, let me send you a bunch of topics. She did. And all of a sudden I see the school to prison pipeline. What the heck is that? So I chose that and I started Googling it, not research, but just Googling it. I'm like, what? It came from zero tolerance. What? I kept going, what? And I made that the subject. And I started digging into it way before the 8th week. And I'm like, everything I looked into, every research paper, one was worse than the other. So here's what it is. It's an insidious, racially systemic discrimination system that exists. It's not a policy, it's a practice. And it exists in schools where there are police in the schools, which started from zero tolerance policy. So let's say a white child gets into trouble in high school and he gets detention. A black or brown child gets suspended for the same infraction. The next thing you know, the white kid gets suspended, as they will often. The black or brown child gets expelled. The second they're expelled, they're into the juvenile justice system and they're on a trajectory to prison. And the policeman in the schools is what has exacerbated and really created this problem. Now, so that's the situation. And everybody in research complains about it. All the politicians complain about it everywhere, but nobody has done a darn thing about it. Now, I have made a commitment. I apply for grants for other people. I'm in the middle of identifying grants for myself for this, to get on board, to develop a movement. I think I want to run for office. I really do. I want to be in Washington. I want to be testifying in front of Congress and saying, what are we doing here? I mean, I really do. And I know the timeliness is interesting because of the whole, Black Lives Matter and the whole awareness, thank God. But I'm really like, this was before that started. This has been going on for months. And the more I talk about it, the more I want to do this. So yeah,
Well, I mean,
that's,
and I'll tell you
and
this.
I'm going to do my dissertation in it, by the way. That's the subject
I'll
of my.
tell you my experience of this, and hopefully this is helpful. You know, I've been in and around, in and out of A. Philip Randolph Campus High School for the last 24 years. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for the school safety officers that are in the building.
And that's different. The security officers are different from policemen, just so you know.
Well, there's not a, so yeah, let me tell you this story, and we'll move from there. So
Okay.
because when you're telling your story, this is what I've witnessed. I've witnessed kids being dragged out of the school in handcuffs. I've seen the school safety officers, and again, I don't want to say this in any way that comes off as disrespectful to the job and the amazing work that a school safety officer can do inside of a school, not only in keeping teachers and administrative and faculty safe, but also other students safe, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I have also seen school safety officers, you know, as one more layer of red tape and administration inside a Department of Education building that makes education harder for the student. I have seen them be a layer, you know, for students that are pursuing education, pursuing a stronger and more educated mind, a layer of red tape where they're dealing with somebody that is displaying an education that is lacking and is an adult in their building, you know, somebody that we would say we would want to hold up and say, this is an example of what you would want to be. This is an officer. This is a representative of the school. And yet they're lacking some of the basic kind of care and education that we would like these young students to have. So I've seen that inside the building. And then they work hand in hand with the officers that are patrolling the streets, and they, you know, are you know, there's information exchanges that are going back and forth. And you know, to note, A. Philip Randolph Campus High School is in Harlem and is a majority Black, Latino, immigrant population. Very, very few white kids, that sort of thing. I wonder if I walked into Stuyvesant, and I haven't been in Stuyvesant, but I wonder if I walked into Stuyvesant High School in Brooklyn, if I would see the same things. I certainly don't see it in my middle school, high school, where my daughter goes to school and my son goes to school here in Valhalla. That kind of presence of police and presence of, and because there's, at any given time, there's like 6 or 7 officers in that building, and, you know, school safety officers, and they are, let me tell you, these are not Ph.D. candidates, you know, and that's not to put them down, but they're
big
not.
problem. It's a big problem.
They're for me to say that, it's saying, hey, these are not folks that are displaying what we want as the best values for our students. And that's the folks that are keeping them in line.
It's all systemic racism. I mean, it's just systemic racism, and it exists throughout the country. And yeah, so it is what it is right now. And thank God the awareness has heightened tremendously. And so things.
So when you say you want to go and talk to Congress, what are kind of some of the steps, you know, and what are things that
I don't know. I have to find it out. All I know, that's how my mind works. I get this heartfelt passion. It grows. It's like a plant that grows and grows and grows. And when it gets, and I start researching, which is why the researching for my PhD is really in line with what I do, because I've always been a researcher on Google, whatever. I figure it out. I'm in the process of figuring this out. I have a long way to go. I have no idea. but I'm going to figure it out. Ultimately,
let
I
me
will
put
figure
this
it
out
out.
there, because I think this is, just me being a part of the conversation, and maybe it'll
Yeah.
be helpful to you. Being a part of this, the racial movement and taking part in protests and listening to speakers, I think some of the same issues that are happening within school buildings are the same issues that are happening within communities.
Absolutely. It's the same exact thing. Yeah.
Rather than having a relationship with students, rather than having a relationship with the community, these officers, inside of institutions, there's a separation between, uh, you know, they're policing the hallways, but they're not creating relationships with students. When you understand that Madeleine is in a bad mood because of things going on in the home,
Exactly.
then you know that Madeleine needs help, and we're gonna take care of that issue before it turns into something that
That's what's changing. That's exactly right. That is what is the trend, shall we say. It's just that there are so many systems that are behind, it's going to take a long time but that's exactly right. That everyone is, it's the same thing in the community as well as in the school, that we're all in this together and we're all one family, and it takes a village. And when policemen live in the community, and when they know, they're the coach as well as the policeman, they're the like the neighborhood, like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. That Daniel Tiger now, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Daniel Tiger's neighborhood.
And some
That's the way it should be, where the policeman is a part of the community.
I love the Daniel Tiger thing, because when you were talking before about like emotional well-being,
Yes.
going back to like Mr. Rogers and sort of his focus, and even going back to some of the way that he was dealing with racial challenges in his time. I remember him being in the little kiddie pool with the local police officer who
Yeah.
was a black man, and that was a big thing. There was big controversy out in the world, but here he is on a children's show, putting his feet in the water with a black man, and sort of just being that example, but talking about that emotional well-being and bridging that divide.
And Sesame Street also has done a remarkable job, and is stepping up on even a higher level. And also, I don't know if you know what they're doing with the something really fantastic with the the kids around the world that are in these temporary facilities that are in. They're bringing the whole Sesame Street concept right into the the places where there are just kids that don't have homes, the refugee camps. They have a way of bringing in every language in the world.
Oh, that's amazing!
They're getting a lot of support for this. It was on Sunday morning, I think. They're getting like billions of dollars. This guy is putting down just to bring this right to children in the refugee camps all around the world.
That's amazing. Yeah, my
kids that are like them, and I'm sorry for interrupting. In other words, they're creating characters that represent the lifestyles of these kids in the refugee camps.
Yeah, Sesame Street has done a great job of that over the years too, bringing in characters that represent the viewership.
Yeah.
Let's talk about grit and momentum coaching. So I know there was a few things we wanted people to carry away with them today. We want to make sure that people understand, what resilience is, taking initiative, taking tenacity, and pushing that forward. So talk to me about how you help folks be more resilient and develop those excellent habits.
Okay, so the first thing is you have to have a willing person, somebody who is interested in upgrading their skills. So that's number one. You can't want something more for somebody else than they want for themselves. So I have, so once I have a person who says, yeah, I would love to, do this project. I'd love to run a new seminar. I would love to take my business to another level in some capacity. Then we identify. It's a discovery process. It's an assessment process. So I have assessments that I've developed for every situation. It's all customized. So let's figure out where you are, where you want to go and what's missing. And then we do these assessments and we figure it out. And then the person decides, okay, I'm ready to move on this. I'm not ready to move on that. They decide how many resources they want to put in terms of time and investment. And then we just have benchmarks and everybody moves forward. It's like, I think I once mentioned on the 5 a.m. call that I want to get, once I get settled in my new location, I want to get this toy that has racehorses. And I have racehorses for every client, including me, because I'm my own best client, and see how we're moving forward, in each of these tracks, like how we're moving forward. So it's a very simple system, and it gets things done. And all of a sudden, people get motivated because, oh my God, I've been wanting to do that for a year, and I never did it, and now it's done in 3 months. Oh, right. You never put the commitment in. Now you did.
So you got somebody that's willing and they need to start taking initiative. How do you push them to take initiative?
I don't. You can't. A person convinced against their will is a person unconvinced skill. I don't. I can only work with the willing. There are 4 stages of learning, Cameron. It goes with unconscious incompetence, when you don't know that you don't know. Then there's conscious incompetence, where you don't know. Then there's conscious competence, where you know that you know. And then there's the side where everybody wants to be, where you don't even know how much you know. You're so good at it. So I do not deal in the world of unconscious incompetence. If somebody doesn't know that they don't know, I can't deal with them. I deal in the world of conscious incompetence. I know I need help in this area. I know this is holding me back. I know this is something, if I did it, I'd be much more recognizable, like a book. A book is your hook. Once you have a book today, you're a celebrity, And so, people have to be willing to want it. They have to want it, because otherwise it's too frustrating.
And how do you help folks with having tenacity?
Okay, that comes from passion. If you want something from the fire in your belly, Robert Bly once wrote this book 100 years ago. Everybody should read it. Fire in your belly. When you have a fire in your belly, the tenacity is just a result. It's just organic. It comes from, you can't say, I'm going to be stubborn about that. I'm going to make this happen, and you really don't want it to happen. It's kind of like dating. Oh my goodness. For years, everybody was saying oh, you need a social life. You need to have a man in your life. And really? And now I'm starting to think that, the fire in my belly is growing. And when I get to Florida and the whole COVID subsides, maybe we'll see about it. Yeah, maybe I do want a boyfriend. But, you have to have the fire in your belly. And when you do it, things happen. The universe gifts you. The universe shows up. And yes, once you have the fire in your belly and you let go and you just relax into it and you focus on the fire, people show up, things happen. Look at this, Cameron. Who would have thought that I'd be on your show? How wonderful.
So how can people get in touch with you, Madeline? I got your LinkedIn up here. I'll drop it into the comments.
Thank you.
What are other good ways that?
The best thing is to text me, my cell. Call right now, because I'm working with Jimmy Hassimi from Thrive, and I'm going to have the whole thing together. I already have my website from Rob Genovese, but we didn't publish it yet. So it's all coming together by I would say September 1st. It'll all be together. But always the best way to just reach out to me. Just either email me or text me. Texting is the best.
All right, so we're going to say to folks, unless you're going to give out the number here, you can get in touch with Madeleine over LinkedIn. I'll throw that up. Once again, you can find her on
my email. Why don't you, if it's not a good idea to put my phone number, put my email in, madeline.i.klein@gmail.com.
You just did. There we go. So you can email Madeleine. You can get in touch with her with LinkedIn, and then you guys can connect, get a phone number, and get in touch with her. I think one of the nice things about LinkedIn, if I connect with you on LinkedIn, I can find your phone number. Once you go to contact info, for folks that don't know that, you can do that, and then that's a great way to connect with folks. What are things that you're looking to connect with people on? I know you're looking for folks that are interested in getting their book written. I know that you're interested, and folks that may want to get some grants written, folks that may be looking for more clients for that business, so doing some prospecting for them. Who are folks that you would like to reach out to you,
Well,
Matt?
I'm actually going to launch a full-blown prospecting program shortly. It's going to be, I'm going to be offering a 1-hour free customized workshop on prospecting. And then I'm going to be offering a 6-week weekly program for an hour a week. We'll be in a small group coaching of maybe 4 or 5 people, and it will be an accountability group for prospecting. You'll be getting tools. You'll be getting exactly what to do, and I will help you. And then if you need help in between the sessions, you'll get it. But my goal is to get the entire entrepreneurial world prospecting, either through social media or traditional ways, whatever way you want, at least a half hour a day minimum. Hopefully more like 2 hours a day, but a half hour, 15 minutes to a half hour. And that is going to be a very big program for me. I'm going to have a lot of small groups, and I look forward to your participation in that. It'll really quadruple your business. I guarantee it.
That's
I
awesome.
literally guarantee it. If my work, by the way, I guarantee it, my reputation's at stake. So if you're not happy, I guarantee you will get your money back, because I don't want money from it. I want happy money that circulates. That's what I want. People are happy to invest it and I'm happy to receive it. But if it's not happy money, I don't want it.
I love it, and I love the fact that you're offering some stuff out there for free. I've been listening to Dan Loke on YouTube. He's a big YouTube guy, and he's talking about how he first some of the first jobs that he got, and going out and literally mowing somebody's yard before they even paid him, just to get the business. So sometimes that's what you got to do. You go out and mow the lawn for free, and then if they're happy, they'll bring you back and they'll buy.
Well, look at my Saturday, Strategic Thinking Saturday. I know it's not the right time for you because of your family commitments.
Yes.
But we have a ball every Saturday morning. Like, join my Strategic Thinking Saturday.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that? And because I know that's open to folks, right?
Yeah. I would love to. So here's how this works. I came from my own curiosity, where I have like all these icons that I love, and I believe in Cliff's Notes. So I created my own Cliff's Notes PowerPoint half-hour presentation and I'm a teacher, so everybody has to participate. So they know at the beginning that, let's say the icon is Socrates. It could be Socrates. Next week it's Paulo Coelho from The Alchemist. So they know at the beginning they're going to be called on to comment on at least one slide. And then we go through it, 25 minutes. Everybody gets called on, and they make their comments, and we last till about 11:45. And now I've just given a gift of appreciation to the crew because they've been with me for months and months. I said 3 months of free coaching, everyone on this call. So if you guys come on soon, you can get 3 months of free coaching too for being a student on Saturday, Strategic Thinking Saturdays.
That's awesome. And they can just get in touch with you via LinkedIn once again.
Yeah, via LinkedIn. Once I'm with LinkedIn, I'll send you the Zoom link and all of that kind of stuff. That's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Yeah. Madeline, this has been excellent. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
I'm so grateful.
I'm gonna let you have the last word. I'll let you say goodbye to everybody, and then we'll take us out with the biz dev thing. And then just hang on for me.
Bye, and know that you are enough right now. Enjoy.
Thanks, Madeline.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.